Welcome to the stream. Let me know if the sound is okay. Also, let me know if the music is too loud. Welcome to the stream. Let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if the music is too loud.
No big news over at X. I can see a lot of FPL managers over at X. They are discussing the Fulham defense and which is the best Fulham defender to pick at the moment. A lot have went Robinson early to avoid the price drop on Ait Nouri. And those managers, they are backing Robinson and saying that Castani is not nailed and that Anderson has been out for long, while other managers who picked Castani is saying that he is a better version of Robinson for less money. So I think it's really close between them. We know that Robinson, he is nailed on for the whole season, while Castani is on borrowed time, but it's 8 to 10 weeks, so it's probably pretty safe to bring in Castani at the moment. 4.2, really good value, and Fulham have really good fixtures coming up. So, in my opinion, I think that Castani perfectly fine. But if you want the safety, just go Robinson if you have the extra money. Start Flecken or Cells. I would back the home fixture when it comes to the goalkeepers playing against each other. Brentford actually pretty decent at home, so I'd back Flecken to do well in this fixture, and Cells is decent as well, but in 50-50 decisions like this, it's probably wise to back the goalkeeper with the home fixture. So Flecken for me. Khalid, I think Joe Pedro's time is up. I'm starting Morgan Rogers over him. Yeah, you have a point, Joe Pedro. Blank last game week, and I think that he will probably be out of my team around New Year's Eve, around game week 19 maybe, but I have Cunha as well, so he is the main priority for me to sell. Wolves fixtures getting really tough from next game week, so this is probably Cunha's last game for my team. No news about the Cunha ban. I think that he'll probably play. Can't really see the FA sending out news after the game week has started. I know that Wolves play on Sunday, but I think that Cunha probably will be liable to play in game week 17 against Leicester. And Joao Pedro, I think that there is a bit of risk involved benching him. We know that he is on penalties for Brighton, and in addition, Welbeck has not been fit recently, so Joe Pedro could potentially play as their number 9 again. So I actually like Joe Pedro better than Morgan Rogers for game week 17. I know that Man City haven't been great recently, but at some point they will probably turn their season around, and we know that they have a lot of quality in their team. So I can see the temptation of playing Morgan Rogers for game week 17, but I would probably play Joao Pedro over Rodgers. Best sheep forwards to replace Welbeck. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Chris Wood. I know that he is not a differential. He's selected by close to 25% of the managers, but I think that he'll continue to do well going forward, and Nottingham Forest fixtures are getting better. So Chris Wood, he is nailed on, and on penalties, I'm not too worried about Avonier and the rotation risk. I think that Chris Wood will start most games. He will probably see some substitutions around 70 minutes, but I think that Chris Wood will start most games, and he is a really good option going forward. Van Nilsson from Bournemouth is decent as well, but he has some competition from Enes Unal as well. So when it comes to cheap forwards, those two would be my preferred options, but they're not great to be honest. But I think that Chris Wood is someone we can have in our team at that price, and he will probably deliver goals going forward. Joao Pedro is better when Welbeck starts as a number 9, so Joao be number 10, where he's good at. Yeah, probably his best position, playing as number 10. I agree. Start Mitoma or Semenyo. I would start Mitoma playing against West Ham. Man United, they can like. Man United are kind of tricky to predict because they can be really solid, and like we saw midweek in the Carabao Cup against Spurs, they can be quite the opposite as well. But both Mitoma and Semenyo have good stats. Mitoma has better output. Mitoma is it's like he's getting into good positions, he's taking shots, but the goals are not going in at the moment. It's close between them, but I would probably play Mitoma for game week 17. Good morning. I wish you all the best, and everyone who follows you a happy. Thank you so much. Good morning to you, and happy new year. Start Lewis Hall or Castan. I would be tempted to start Castan, to be honest. He will probably start in game week 17. Really good fixture for Fulham. So I would probably take a punt and start Castan. Raul Jimenez or Jamie Vardy to transfer in or to start this game week. If you have both of them, I would probably try to find a way to start them both. We'll probably play this game week, and they have a really good fixture. So if you have Raul and Wardy in your team, I would try to find a way to start them both. But if I were to transfer one of them in, I would probably go Raul Jimenez. Would you transfer in Alexander Isak for Jackson? Ooh, I actually like both of them. I think Isaac is a better option, but I wouldn't necessarily use a transfer on getting Isaac in. Jackson can easily outscore him for the next couple of game weeks, so I think that this move is kind of sidewards, so would not be my main priority, selling Jackson to bring in Isaac. I have Raya Engel, Masraoui, Colville, Trent, Palmerson, Salah, Saka, and Cunha, Visa, Joao Pedro. Do you think my team is fine, or should I change something? Ivan, definitely those players seem fine. Most of them will probably start in game week 17. They have decent fixtures as well. Cunha, he's been rumored to be banned for game week 17, but we not received any concrete news about a ban, so he will probably start in game week 17. It was kind of awkward on the press conference. Wolves new head coach was talking about Cunha, and he said that he would probably be ready for game week 17 and talking about his condition like he was injured or something, but no mention of a ban, so he'll most likely play game week 17. But I would start looking for Cunha replacements, however, because Wolves fixtures are getting really tough from game week 18 and onwards. So Cunha, he is fine for game week 17, but I would start to look at possible replacements. Castani or Robinson? At the moment, I talked about this yesterday as well. At the moment, I would probably go Castani. Robinson is a season keeper probably, but I think that Castani is worth a punt at the moment. We know that Kenny Tete is out for 8 to 10 weeks, and that's a lot of game weeks, so I think that Castani is perfectly fine to transfer in. It's close between them, but I would probably go Castani because of his price of only 4.2. Would you start Kirkis or Mikolenko? Close call. I can't really see a clean sheet for either of them, so in situations like this, I tend to back the home fixture, so probably Mikolenko playing at home against Chelsea, while Bournemouth and Kirkis, they have to travel to Old Trafford and play against Man United. So Chelsea probably a bit better than Man United, but I would start Everton defense. So Everton, they have also kept 4 clean sheets in their last 5 games, so there could potentially be a new 0-0 at the Goodison tomorrow. So yeah, start Mikolenko. Start Konsa or Lewis. This one is close as well, playing in the same fixture, first game of the game week. So I would probably take a punt and play Konsa. I just talked about backing the home picture, and we know that he is definitely starting, so would probably take a punt on starting. It's really close though. But yeah, back the home fixture. It's not like Man City are in their best form at the moment, so I can't really see Man City keeping a clean sheet playing Aston Villa away, so I would actually bench Lewis and start Konsa. Salah is on top in the captain poll. Who is your Game Week 17 captain? Salah with 78%, Palmer 22%, Alexander Isak and Saka with no votes. So actually, Isak just got. If I had Alexander Isak, I would probably consider him as my captain for Game Week 17. I actually made 2 transfers this game week. I sold Kevin De Bruyne and got in Mo Salah for this game week. I took a punt in game week 15 when the Everton against Liverpool game got postponed due to weather. So I sold Salah to bring in Kevin De Bruyne, but I reversed the transfer yesterday to bring Mo Salah back. So he will be my captain. One of the reasons why I got Salah back in is because I don't really fancy having Saka or Cole Palmer as my captain this game week. Crystal Palace and Everton, both teams have been really good defensively recently, so Chelsea and Arsenal might struggle to score many goals in their respective matches this game week, so Mo Salah will be my captain. So I sold Ait Nouri and Kevin De Bruyne. I brought in Anderson, Fulham, centre back 4.2. Really good attacking threat from set pieces. So I did the Ait Nouri to Anderson move before we got the news about Kenny Tete being injured for 8 to 10 weeks. If I had this information, I would probably pick Castagne over Anderson, to be honest. Robinson was not an option for me because I had to pick a defender priced 4.5 to afford the upgrade from Kevin De Bruyne to Mo Salah. So yeah, that's the reasoning for picking Anderson. I also considered taking a -8 this game week. I'm not going to do it, but if Cunha received the ban and if he was not allowed to play in game week 17, I would probably have sold him, and my plan was to sell Havertz and Cunha to bring in Alexander Isak and Chris Wood. I had the exact funds actually for these 2 moves, but yeah, now that Cunha is probably going to start game week 17, I will just keep him and reassess before game week 18. Isak is one of the most transferred in player ahead of game week 17. Over 600,000 new owners ahead of game week 17. Ait Nouri the most sold, close to. Let's have a quick look at his transfers out. I'll double check. 800,000 managers have sold Ait Nouri. It makes perfectly sense because he is banned for game week 17, and when he comes back in game week 18, they have a tough fixture. He will still have 4 yellow cards, so it only takes 1 new yellow card for Ait Nouri for him to receive a new ban. So with Wolves' tough fixtures coming up, Aitnur is definitely a sell. And that's what 800,000 other FPL managers have thought. Welbeck and Haaland, they have also had 300,000 managers losing patience and selling them. Barry Devine, Saka versus Everton. Do you think that Saka is a decent captain option for game week 17, or does those eyes suggest that captaining Saka is a bad idea? Can quickly put up some stats on the screen. That's Salah. That's the Saka. Perfect. So this is actually Crystal Palace, Saka versus Everton. Is this? I'm confused. Saka playing against Crystal Palace. Cole Palmer is the one playing against Everton in game week 17. And as you can see on the screen, Crystal Palace, the reason why I'm not going to captain Saka in game week 17 is that Crystal Palace actually are one of the best defensive teams, only beaten by Arsenal when it comes to shots on target, expected goals conceded, big chances conceded, and goals conceded as well. So Crystal Palace may be a bit underrated. I will keep both Saka and Havertz, but I will not consider captaining them. Would you swap Bruno Fernandes out for Ødegaard in game week 18 if you have only one free transfer? Probably not. I would keep Bruno, especially if you only have one free transfer. I know that Bruno probably hasn't lived up to his expectations, but it's probably the same with Ødegaard. He's not been delivering week in, week out when it comes to goals and assists himself, so I would probably just keep Bruno Fernandes and save the transfer. He has a good history against them. There's gone a few games without scoring. It's time. So you are going Saka against Palace, Barry? You wrote Saka versus Everton, and that's like a mix of both Saka and Cole Palmer for me for game week 17, because Palmer is the one playing Everton, but obviously mentioned Saka, so ignore me. I thought they were against Everton. That's Palmer. I gotta be confused, to be honest, because you mentioned Saka, but you also talked about Cole Palmer's fixture. But the game weeks are coming really fast at the moment, so I can see the confusion. Actually, considered early to captain one of Saka or Cole Palmer, but after taking a closer look on both Crystal Palace, as I just had up on the screen, and Everton's defensive stats as well, I considered that I just had to get Mo Salah back, because I don't really fancy captaining Saka against Crystal Palace or Cole Palmer against Everton. Yeah, it's probably a bit boring to captain Salah. His ownership will be massive for game week 17, so not a differential, and not too exciting, I agree. But when we take a look at Spurs defensive stats, we can see that there are reasons to go Mo Salah. On paper, the fixture is kind of exciting, and it will be a really entertaining game, hopefully. It will be painful watching Spurs against Liverpool without having Mo Salah. So for the last 4 game weeks, Spurs have actually kept 1 clean sheet and only conceded 6 goals, which is quite decent actually. But when we take a look at the other stats, the big chances conceded 15, shots on target conceded 25, and they have an expected goal of 8.96. So Spurs defensive stats are not good, and as we saw midweek in the cup when Spurs played against Man United, Spurs will probably have to rely on scoring a lot of goals to win football matches these days. Vicario, their first choice goalkeeper, is out. Van de Ven and Romero, their 2 best centre backs, are out. Even the deputy Davis is injured as well. I think Udogi probably will be fit to play, but he has had some fitness issues as well, so I think that for Spurs, attack is the best defense at the moment, so hopefully there will be a lot of goals in the Spurs versus Liverpool game. For sure, it will be a great game. 3-3 maybe. Yeah, probably. I think that there will be a lot of goals. I can't really see Liverpool keeping a clean sheet against Spurs at the moment, to be honest. Probably think Liverpool are favorites. So if there are 6 goals in that game, I would take it. Probably more leaning towards 4-2 to Liverpool. We're getting close to 2 hours until the deadline. 2 hours and 4 minutes at the moment. Let's have a quick look over at X if there are some early team news. No big news over at X. A lot of FPL managers locking in their teams. Looks like Salah will be heavily captained this game week. You can see a lot of managers going Mo Salah. It's like on paper, playing away against Spurs doesn't look that good, but when we consider their injuries and their defensive form recently, it makes perfectly sense to captain Mo Salah. Salah is also the bookie's favorite for anytime goal scorer, 50%. Next on the list is Haaland, and Isaac is third with 45%. So the bookies are backing Salah as well. Start Ahmad or Enzo. I would probably start Ahmad Diallo, to be honest. I know that Enzo got an assist last week and that he has been doing really well recently, but Chelsea have a tough fixture playing against a really solid Everton team at Goodison Park. And I also think that Amad Diallo is a better fantasy option. He is playing more advanced. I know that. I just mentioned that I know about Enzo's recent points, but yeah, Amad Diallo would be my preferred option. I wonder if always choosing a differential captain might be a good strategy. Well, it could be a good strategy. Of course, you have to have a little bit of luck to nail down your differential each week, of course. And the problem is that if the most captain player does really well, like Haaland in game week 1 to game week 6, that really killed my rank. I started the season with Salah, betting against Haaland. So my rank took a big hit in those weeks where he scored 3 goals. So he got, was it 10 goals in the first 6 game weeks? But like in every game week there are, I can't say always, but it's quite often other players than the most captain player doing really well. So if you can nail down those players like Isak in game week 17, could very well outscore Mo Salah playing against Ipswich. Decent fixture, nailed on penalties. If I had Isak, I would probably captain him. You could always buy Isak, yeah. I really considered buying Isak both last game week and this game week as well, but it would be for a -8, so I will have some more patience. Hopefully he will not go crazy against Ipswich. So my plan was actually to sell both Kai Havertz and Cunha to bring in Isak and Chris Wood, but Cunha was rumored to be banned for game week 17, but we've not had any concrete news about that ban, so he will probably be liable to play against Leicester. So I'll just play Cunha and worry about Isak later. The thing is, I've had Isak 2 times already this season. I started with him, he did not deliver. I got him in on my game week 12 wildcard as well. He blanked in game week 12, got injured in game week 13, only played 22 minutes or something like that. So I sold him ahead of game week 14. It was a quick turnaround. This was game week 14 was a midweek, so I sold him ahead of the deadline. There were rumors he was yellow flagged as well. Rumors about him not playing in game week 14, so. But he did and scored as well, so that was kind of frustrating. But I do like Isak as a fantasy option, especially when Wilson is injured, like he is at the moment. We know that Isak will play up front and that he is on penalties. So he's a good option. If I had the funds to upgrade Havertz or Cunha directly to Isak, I would probably do it, but I would have to make 2 transfers and that would cost me -8, so I'll just wait. Isak is one of the players that the bookies are backing ahead of game week 17, 45%, only beaten by Haaland and Salah for anytime goal scorer. Salah, he is on top with 50% for his fixture against Spurs. Haaland 48 and Isaac 45. When it comes to clean sheets, Arsenal, they are favorites 42%, Fulham 40 and Chelsea 36. So the bookies are backing both Arsenal and Fulham, especially when it comes to keeping a clean sheet. For everyone who owns Ait Nouri, it makes perfectly sense to Sell Ait Nouri at the moment. He is suspended. He will remain on 4 yellow cards when he's back, and Wolves have really tough fixtures. And Fulham have really good fixtures on the other hand, and they have really good value assets in defense. So selling Ait Nouri to bring in a Fulham defender makes perfectly sense. Bookies know best. Yeah, it's actually pretty weird when it comes to the bookies and their predictions, because sometimes it just feels wrong, but in most cases they get it right. So in hindsight, they tend to have really good predictions, even though, as mentioned, sometimes their predictions looks kind of weird, but yeah, that's probably why they're making so much money. I have been kind of tempted to play Buonanotte against Wolves as well. We know that Wolves, they are not in their best form at the moment, and Buonanotte is actually pretty decent. When I watched Leicester play, he always looks like a big threat when he's on the ball, so I like Buonanotte, but I don't really see any players in my front seven at the moment that I can bench to get Buonanotte in my starting 11. So Kirkis will be on my bench for the fixture against Man United. I will play Masraoui from that fixture, backing the home game, and Anderson, my new signing. I'm not sure if he will start in game week 17, but I sold Ayat Nouri before the price drop, and I had to pick a defender priced at 4.5 or lower, so Robinson was not an option, and Anderson also makes perfectly sense to bring in, especially if you can bench him for game week 17. We saw last season when he played for Crystal Palace that he is a big threat at set pieces, and hopefully he can continue delivering for Fulham when he's back in their starting 11. A new look over at X, and just like last time, I had a look at the For You page. There are a lot of Salah captainers this game week. I know that X and the FPL community is just a small portion of the total amount of players, but I think that Salah probably will be close to maybe 170% captained or owned, excuse me, 170% owned when we consider the effective ownership. So he's definitely the safe option for game week 17, but at the same time, I also think that he is the best option when we consider Spurs and their injuries and their defensive form as well. So over at Fantasy Football Hub, I can see that Salah, and this is not verified, it's just posted at X, but Salah, he is the player with the most expected points as well for game week 17 with 6.8. Salah, he is second with 6.5, so close between Salah and Cole Palmer. And actually, a surprising number 3, Bruno Fernandes against Bournemouth, 5.9. So these are the predicted points. So those predictions are very often wrong, but they give like a small indicator of how the game week will go. But the Fantasy Football Hub AI team is not doing great. Cunha and Semenyo to Raul and Jota for fun. It would probably be fun moves. Raul Jimenez, really good picture this game week, and Jota as well, good differential, but I think that Cunha will play in game week 17 and he has a good fixture against Leicester, so I would probably just keep them, to be honest. Semenyo is not delivering the FPL points that his owners want, but he is taking shots, getting into good positions, have a good expected goal involvement, so I think that both Cunha and Semenyo are perfectly fine to just keep, so I would save my 2 free transfers and reassess ahead of game week 18. But I do agree that especially Jota would be a fun punt for game week 17. Maybe if I were on a pre-hit, I would consider it. But when it comes to Liverpool and their attacking players at the moment, I would probably stay away from most of them except Mo Salah. He is the most nailed on player and on penalties. Of course, we have to pay the price, but I think that Mo Salah is worth it and will continue playing most minutes. You can just see when Mo Salah is subbed off, you can just see on his body language that he just wants to play every minute. So I think that with his position in the club, I think that he will probably just get his will and continue playing. While for the others, they will probably see some rotation, and this will probably mean some 1-pointers. So Jota, he can start game week 17, but Darwin Núñez can be back real quick and they will share minutes. Gakpo can play as their number 9 as well. Salah is leading the way in the poll, 80%. I just had a look over at X, and Salah, he will be massively captain for game week 17. I think we could see effective ownership at 170 possibly. Captain Salah, Palmer, or Isak? I just talked about Salah, and he will be massively captain for game week 17, so he is definitely the safest option for game week 17. But if you want to take a punt, I actually really like Alexander Isak as well. I would avoid Cole Palmer. Chelsea are playing away at Goodison against Everton, and they have been really, really solid defensively recently with 4 clean sheets in their last 4 games. So, of course, Cole Palmer could do well, but it can easily be a 0-0 draw at Goodison as well. So, for me, it's between Salah and Isak if you own him. So, it's kind of up to you if you want to take a risk. If you're satisfied with your rank and your position in your mini leagues, I would probably go Salah, but if you want to be a bit attacking and aggressive, I would go for Isak. Okay, thanks for the help. No worries. Hopefully you'll pick the right one. I'm really tempted to bring in Isak this game week, but it would have been for a -8. I can't do Havertz directly to Isak, so I would have to sell both Havertz and Cunha to Isak and Wood, but I'm not going to take the -8, just going to play Cunha against Leicester. So let me know if you have any questions ahead of the game week 17 deadline. The deadline is 1 hour and 37 minutes away, so you still have time to make transfers and to lock in your captain. I already made 2 transfers. I've sold Ait Nouri. Actually, sold Ait Nouri on, was it Monday or Tuesday, before his first price drop. And I brought in Anderson, the Fulham defender. If I had the information about Kenny Tete's injury and that he would be out for 8 to 10 weeks, I would probably have gone Castani, but I still think that Anderson is a perfectly fine option. Big threat at attacking set pieces, so he will soon be in their starting 11 again, so yeah, I just had to get Ait Nouri out of my team. Second transfer for me this game week was selling Kevin De Bruyne to bring Mo Salah back. I was tempted actually to take a new punt on Kevin De Bruyne and keeping him for game week 17, but after taking a closer look at Spurs defensive stats, I just had to get Mo Salah back in. So Spurs, they actually just conceded 6 goals in their last 4 game weeks, but when we consider the stats like expected goals conceded, shots on target against them, big chances, they have been absolutely terrible. And we know that they have injuries in defense. Vicario, their first choice goalkeeper, is injured. Van de Ven, Romero. So I think that Mo Salah is the best captain option for game week 17. So no big news over at X so far. No early team news or other rumors. This is a typical game week where we could potentially get early team news. Man City is one of the teams that have had a couple of leaks, especially at the end of last season, a couple of times this season as well. The problem with those early leaks recently have been that some of the biggest accounts have been wrong as well. So I'm not too sure how much we can trust those early team news, to be honest. So the questions ahead of game week 17 and the first fixture would probably be for Ollie Watkins owners if he'll start in game week 17 against Man City, or if John Duran will get another start. Morgan Rogers will probably play. But probably a couple of Ding owners as well. Worried about his minutes. Salah is leader in the captain poll. Go vote if you haven't done so. Salah is on 83, Cole Palmer 11, Alexander Isak 6. No votes for Saka so far. After a quick look over at X, I can see that a lot in the FPL community will captain Mo Salah, so he's definitely the safest captain option for game week 17. Not really exciting. He will probably have an effective ownership at around 170, so not much to gain when it comes to captaining Mo Salah, but of course there is a risk involved in not captaining him in case he really holds. It will hurt your rank, but if I had Isak, I would probably be tempted to captain him in game week 17. Go with the differential, and I think that Isak has a really big upside, so Salah is the safe option, but Isak is definitely worth a punt if you own him. Was close to bring in Isak this game week. I considered selling Havertz and Cunha, but since Cunha did not receive his potential ban and will most likely play against Leicester, I will just keep him and don't take a hit. So what's up on the screen will most likely be my team unless we get any news in the next hour or so. So let me know if you have any questions, 50-50 decisions or dilemmas ahead of game week 17. The deadline is 1 hour and 23 minutes away. Still plenty of time to make transfers and lock in your captain, but it's getting close to that time when it's usually a good idea to have made up your minds about which players to bring in and which players you are considering for captaincy. I've already made 2 transfers, selling Ait Nouri and Kevin De Bruyne to bring in Anderson, who is on my bench for game week 17, and Mo Salah. I sold Mo Salah in game week 15 when Everton Liverpool got postponed due to the heavy weather, but this was the perfect game week for me to bring him back in. Start Konsa or Guardiola? I will go Guardiola because of his attacking threats. Can't really see a clean sheet for either of them, but Guardiola is probably the better option when it comes to attacking returns, and he's also the most expensive, so it would feel better to have Konsa. 6 points is probably the most you can expect from Esri Konsa. You can survive having 6 Esri Konsa points, but if Guardiola scores and gets 9-10 points, it will be really, really annoying benching him. So I would start Guardiola. I might start one Pedro, Enzo, or Milenkovic. I would definitely start Joao Pedro out of those 3. So if you're going to pick just one, I would start Joao Pedro. He is on penalties, has a decent fixture in game week 17 as well, playing against West Ham. So Joao Pedro will probably start, and he is on penalties. I think that Enzo, I know that he has done well recently, but I don't really see him as a long-term good fantasy option, to be honest. So I think Joao Pedro is a better option, and that he has the better fixture in game week 17 as well. Chelsea, they're playing against Everton, who have kept 4 clean sheets in their last 4 games. Really strong at the Goodison Park as well, so I would definitely consider starting Joao Pedro. But I like Milenkovic. I wouldn't necessarily start him ahead of Joao Pedro, but if you need a new defender, and if you already have someone from Fulham, I really like Milenkovic. He's done well recently, 2 goals in the last 4 game weeks. He's on my watch lists. Talked about Milenkovic in my team selection video ahead of this game week as well. I think he's on the watch list on the screen down in the right hand corner. You can see the suspension tie rope and my watch lists. So on my watch list I have Timber, Castani and Lewis Hall, but my 4th option would probably be Milenkovic, and as mentioned, talked about him in my team selection video, and I think that he is a really good option going forward. So if you have Milenkovic and those players, I would bench him, but there will be opportunities for Milenkovic going forward. Nottingham Forest have had some tough fixtures, but their fixtures are getting better. going forward. So I think that Milenkovic is a good option. I've actually considered bringing Chris Wood in this game week. If Cunha got suspended, I would probably have sold Cunha and Havertz to bring in Chris Wood and Isak. Start Joe Pedro or Cunha. So the thing is with Cunha, I was really sure that he would get a ban and not be liable to play in game week 17, but since we not heard anything concrete about a ban, we will just have to assume that he will play. And I think that he has the best fixture out of them. So I would start Cunha ahead of Joao Pedro in game week 17. Thing is with Cunha, he'll either start and play probably 90 minutes or he will not play at all. So just start Cunha and have Joao Pedro first bench if you can only play one of them. I'm actually kind of tempted to play Buonanotte. He's first on my bench. I think that he is a decent option for game week 17. Good fixture against Wolves, but I can't really bench Joao Pedro or Cunha to play Buonanotte, so the team on the screen will probably be my starting 11. Hi, do I double up on Fulham defense Castani for Huijsen? I just bought him in, but now looking, I can't see a Bournemouth defense in the next 5. Kind of depends how many transfers you have. I do believe that Fulham defense are really good value at the moment, especially considering their fixtures and the new opportunity we got in Castagna as well after Kenny Tete's injury. He will be out for 8 to 10 weeks, which is a lot of game weeks. So I think Castagna is a really good option. But if you only have like 1 or 2 free transfers, I would probably wait and save and see if you need those transfers ahead of game week 18. But if you have like 4 or 5 transfers, then you could probably make a luxury move by selling Huijsen and bringing in Castan. I don't necessarily see Bournemouth defenders as must sells. It's like they're cheap enough to stay on the bench. They have a decent fixture in game week 18 at home against Crystal Palace. Decent fixture in game week 20 as well when they play Everton at home. So I think that Bournemouth defenders are good if you have like a defensive rotation, but if you want to play this defender every game week, probably makes more sense to get in Castagni. But I still think it depends on how many free transfers you have at the moment. So if you have 1 or 2, I would just keep Huijsen. But if you have 4 to 5 free transfers, I would probably bring in an extra Fulham defender. Apparently there's 50 miles per hour wind in Liverpool, so there's a chance again that Everton is postponed against Chelsea. Really? I haven't notice. I will have a quick look over at X. Interesting. That would mean that Everton would have 2 postponed games, would need to reschedule. Don't necessarily see Everton as a team to target, even if they have a couple of double game weeks. Will be tough fixtures playing against Liverpool and Chelsea in those doubles, so So where did you read about the game being at risk? Can't really see anything over at X at the moment, but you're probably right. Just had a quick search over at X and I can see Premier League India, they are posting a video of Cole Palmer scoring 4 goals against Everton last season. Nice. I don't see that happening again. Just heard the rumors about the Everton against Chelsea game maybe being slightly at risk due to strong winds, but even though the game goes on as scheduled, I don't see Everton conceding 4 goals against Chelsea at the moment. Who to start between Cunha, Joe Pedro, or Rodgers? I would definitely start Cunha against Leicester. I would start Joe Pedro as well. Decent fixture against West Ham, so Rodgers would be on my bench if I had those 3. Do I start Buonanotte over Semenyo? That's interesting. I have Buonanotte as well. I'm really tempted to play him in game week 17, but I can't really justify benching Joe Pedro or Cunha to play Buonanotte. But if I had Semenyo, I would really consider playing Buonanotte and benching Semenyo. I would probably play Buonanotte over Semenyo. I have a slight issue with defense. What 3 do I start? Aina, Robinson, Lewis. Robertson will probably play in game week 17. He served his 1 match ban midweek in the cup, so Andy Robertson will be liable to play in game week 17, so I would definitely start Robertson because of attacking threats and the fact that he is playing for Liverpool. There could be some attacking returns in that game as well. Can't really see a clean sheet in the Spurs against Liverpool match, but hopefully and probably there will be a lot of goals. So I would probably play Robinson, Aina, and Robertson. Bench Lewis and Huijsen. Bryce, no Isaac. I have been close to bringing in Isaac, but my priority was to bring Salah back in. So my transfers: Kevin De Bruyne to Salah and Ait Nouri to Anderson. Can you double up wildcard, or do you have to use it before December 29th? Unfortunately, you cannot have two wildcards, so you have to play your first wildcard before the 29th. So if you don't activate your wildcard, it will just be wasted. So I would recommend, even though your team is fine, I would recommend playing your wildcard and just making those small changes and small upgrades. So to sum up those last questions, who to start from: Cunha, Joe Pedro, or Rodgers? I would start Cunha and Joe Pedro and bench Rodgers. Do I start Buonanotte or Semenyo? I would start actually Buonanotte for his good fixture against Wolves. When it comes to the defenders, I would start Robinson, Aina, and Andy Robertson. And no, unfortunately, you cannot have two wildcards in the last part of the season if you save your first wildcard. That's not possible, so you would have to play your first wildcard before New Year's Eve. Is there any news on Cunha ban? The last news I heard was yesterday, and the rumor is that he will play. And I can't really see him being banned after the game week has started, to be honest. Not sure if that has happened before. It would be kind of a shit move to Wolves. They probably spent this week preparing for the game against Leicester with Cunha in their starting 11, so banning him hours before the kickoff is probably not something they would do. Shares, I'll use mine next week. Yeah. That's probably the best thing to do if you already have your first wildcard. As mentioned, if your team is fine, just play your wildcard, do some small adjustments, maybe bring in someone from Fulham. They have really good fixtures going forwards, so if you want some budget options in defense to free up more funds for your midfield and forwards, and I would probably double up on Fulham defense with both Anderson and Castani. I have Jackson and Cole Palmer. Would you recommend I get Isak? I would definitely recommend having Isak. He's a really good option, especially now with Wilson being injured. Isak will play as their number 9 and be on penalties. When Wilson is fit, Isak tends to drift a little bit to the left, and Wilson will probably take penalties, but at the moment Wilson is injured, so Isak is a really, really good option. But do you consider selling Jackson to bring in Isak? I think that I got another question about this exact transfer, and I think that is a bit sideways because Jackson is a really good option as well. So I'm not sure if selling Jackson to bring in Isak is worth it. Kind of depends how many free transfers you have, I guess. as it's a matter of time when he gets banned, what move are you looking at doing to replace him? So my plan this game week, if Cunha got the ban, was actually to sell both Cunha and Havertz to bring in Isak and Chris Wood. I don't have the funds available to sell Cunha and bring in Isak. So the players I will be considering will probably maybe to do those exact moves, selling Havertz and Cunha, bringing in Isak and Wood. Or maybe I'll just sell Cunha to Chris Wood. I will monitor Jared Bowen as well for game week 17. He might be a player that I will be looking to sell soon, and I might do something like Bowen and Cunha out to bring in Isak and another midfielder. But I decided to just play this team in game week 17. I will not go through with the Havertz and Cunha to Isak and Wood moves. It would be a -8 as well, and I'm not willing to commit to a -8. So Havertz and Cunha will start game week 17 for me, and I will reassess ahead of game week 18. Might still go through with the Havertz and Cunha moves, but I might also do something with Jared Bowen. Is it time to move away from Aina? I've left it late, as a lot of people have moved 3 weeks ago. Still think that he is a decent option, to be honest, and Nottingham Forest fixtures are actually getting better going forward, so I don't necessarily see Aina as a must-sell at the moment, even though he's not as popular as he was a few game weeks ago. So he scored that great goal, but we always knew that he was not going to score goals like that week in, week out. So not much has changed, to be honest, when it comes to Aina. So I still think that he is a decent option. Let's have a quick look at the fixtures. So game week 17, Brentford away, Spurs in game week 18. So not the best fixtures short term, but after the Spurs game, they have Everton in game week 19, Wolves in game week 20. So both game week 19 and 20 could be decent weeks for Aina. Tough game in 21 when they play Liverpool, of course. Really tough to keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, but the next game week 22, they have Southampton at home. So I think that when it comes to the fixtures for Nottingham Forest, the fixtures are probably better when it comes to their attacking assets like Chris Wood, because I can see goals in game week 17 against Brentford and game week 18 against Spurs, but I don't necessarily see clean sheets in those games. But Aina at the price is probably a decent hold, and you can play him in game week 19, 20, 22 and 23. I would be tempted, of course, to jump on the Fulham defense. They have really good fixtures coming up, and their defenders are really good value as well. And Castan is probably safe to bring in because of the injury to Kenny Tete. He is out for 8 to 10 weeks, so Should I start Guardiola or Van Hecke? I would start Guardiola. Really impressive attacking numbers from Guardiola. I know that Man City have not been great recently, but Guardiola is actually one of their best performers. I will actually consider a way to bring Guardiola into my team in a couple of game weeks when Man City's fixtures gets really good. So I would start Guardiola if I had him. When we get the wildcard back, do you think having Haaland might be essential? It's a really tough question. I was one of those players who went against Haaland. I don't necessarily see him as essential at the price. I think that first of all you have to pick one out of Haaland and Salah. For me, I think having both is just taking up too much of the budget. So I started the season without Haaland, and he went on to score 10 goals in 6 games. I had a really bad rank after those weeks. I was close to 4, I think it was 4.5 million something. So a terrible start to the season for me, and my bad luck just continued. I sold Mo Salah in game week 6 to bring Haaland in. For the next 6 game weeks, from game week 6 to game week 12, Haaland only got 2 goals. So kind of unlucky when it comes to the Salah versus Haaland so far this season. I don't see him as essential, but I think that at some point he will start scoring goals again. Not at the same rate as the first 6 game weeks, but he will probably get his goals to minutes ratio up a bit from what we have seen in the last game weeks, or since game week 6, so the last 10 game weeks. $55 minutes left until deadline. When we get the wildcard back, do you think having Haaland might be essential? I will probably not play my wildcard when we receive the new wildcard. I will probably save it for some weeks, probably until around game week 30 to 34, where there usually are a double game week. Should I do Visa to Raul? I would not sell Visa this game week for a hit to bring in Raul Jimenez. Like Visa can perfectly fine outscore Raul Jimenez for game week 17. I think that Raul is a better option long term, but I would wait and do it for free next game week. I really like Fulham's fixtures, and they have shown to be a really good team as well. So Raul is probably a decent option. My first main priority from Fulham would be their defense. Really good value at the moment. I will be in midfield as well. So Raul is not my favorite Fulham asset, but he's probably decent. Will most probably continue starting, but he has some competition from Muniz. So if Muniz is showing good form going forward, then Raul might see even more rotation. So Raul is not my favorite Fulham asset, but a decent buy if you need a new attacker. I think that Visa and Brentford's fixtures gets really tough. So I think that Visa should be sold soon, but not necessarily in ahead of game week 17. Would probably consider selling Visa to Raul for free, but not for a hit. So let's have a quick look over at X to see if there are some more news on the rumors about Everton Chelsea being postponed. Hmm. Can't seem to find any concrete news on the rumors about this heavy winds in Liverpool and the postponement of another Everton game. If the game was in danger of being postponed, it will probably be all over X at the moment. Doesn't really show when I search for the game as well. I think we're fine. The Everton against Chelsea game will probably be played. But let me know if you find something on the Everton game. I tried to search over at X, but no concrete news on the strong wins in Everton and that the Everton against Chelsea fixture is in danger of being postponed. So since it's so hard to find any concrete news, it's probably just rumors and the game will probably go ahead as scheduled. For me, this would mean that Fabianski would come in for Sanchez and Bonanotte would play ahead of Cole Palmer, so it's probably not the end of the world for my team. There are probably some teams with triple Chelsea, having one defender, Colville or Sanchez, and probably both Cole Palmer and Jackson, and that would be really, really harsh if the game gets postponed. Everton Chelsea, let's have a look. Nothing new. Yeah, no news about the Everton game being postponed due to heavy winds. So the Everton against Chelsea game will probably go as scheduled. When it comes to Cunha, if you own him, I would probably just keep. As he's not banned yet, he will probably not receive a ban so close to their game. So I think that Cunha will start and play against Leicester in game week 17. So for me, Cunha is a hold, and we'll just have to reassess and probably look for replacements ahead of next game week 18. So my thoughts are to maybe take a hit by selling both Havertz and Cunha to bring in Isaac and Wood. Another option is just to use a transfer on selling Cunha and bringing in Wood. Not that exciting, to be honest. They have around the same ownership, so kind of a boring transfer. But if Cunha gets the ban, I think that this transfer just is something that needs to be done. .40 minutes, 41 minutes to be exact, until the deadline. So no news on the Everton game. The game will probably be played. There was some rumors about Everton Chelsea being postponed due to heavy and strong winds, but I can't seem to find any concrete news on it, so the game will probably go ahead. When it comes to Cunha, no news about his ban, so he will probably start and play in game week 17 against Leicester. I got a couple of questions about Fulham defenders. At the moment, if I were to bring in a Fulham defender right now, it would probably be Castani. .4.2 will probably play most minutes the next 8 to 10 weeks, so I think that he is a really good option at the moment. But Robinson is probably the safest option, and he will continue playing, so he is probably a season keeper. If you get him in at 4.8, he is a really good option as well. My Fulham defender is Anderson. I like him as well, 4.2. I got him in before the news about Kenny Tete, which made Castani an option all of a sudden. But I sold Ait Nouri on Monday before the price drop, so this was before we got the news about Kenny Tete's injury. So Anderson is also a really good option. Big threat at attacking set pieces, as we saw last season for Crystal Palace. He's been injured, but They said on the press conference yesterday that he was fit and ready to start. I'm not sure if he'll play in game week 17, but probably from game week 18 and onwards. No news over at X, so the game Everton against Chelsea will probably go as scheduled. Start Buonanotte or Semenyo. I would be really tempted to play Buonanotte for game week 17, to be honest. I have him on my bench, but I can't justify benching Joao Pedro or Cunha. But if I had Semenyo, I would probably bench Semenyo and play Buonanotte. Really good fixture. Playing at home against Wolves can't be much better, so I think Buonanotte is a really good option. So, as mentioned, no news about the Everton Chelsea game, and Not seen anything about the Cunha ban. FPL Baker tweeting about it will be really typical for FPL if the ban is announced after the deadline, but can't really see the FA banning Cunha so close to the game, to be honest. Would be really harsh to Wolves if they have spent the last week preparing for the game with Cunha in their starting 11, then all of a sudden they have to make late changes. So of course it's possible, but I can't really see it. So to summarize those two talking points, I think that the Everton against Chelsea game will go as planned, and I also think that Cunha will be liable to play in game week 17. So I would not sell Cunha if I had him. At X, searches for Cunha are actually trending at the moment. A lot of funny tweets about Cunha at the moment over at X. A lot of Cunha non-owners stating that owners are really lucky because Cunha, he kept the points from game week 16 and has not received a ban yet, so a lot of managers probably would have sold him next game week. Wolves fixtures are getting really tough from next game week, so yeah, I think that especially if Cunha starts in game week 17 and does well, gets another goal against Leicester, I would probably tend to agree that the Cunha owners have been a bit lucky, to be honest. But if he's not banned this game week, I can't really see him not being banned ahead of game week 18. It's like the footage is really clear that he was like touching, not punching, but at least he was touching the opposition staff's face, and it was like a minor attack of some sort, so I think that he'll probably miss a game, but I don't necessarily think that it will be game week 17. I think he'll play, so I think he's a keep for now. Can't see him being banned after the deadline, so the deadline is only 30 minutes away. It's time to make the final decisions if you want to make transfers, and it's also time to lock in your captain. Let me know if you have any questions, 50-50 decisions or dilemmas ahead of the deadline. 30 minutes left. Is there any info if Watkins gonna start? I've actually searched for some team news, early team news from the Man City Everton game. I'm sorry, Aston Villa Man City game, but I'm not seeing anything. I think that Aston Villa early team news are probably the most interesting when it comes to the likes of Watkins, Rodgers, and probably Ding as well, but no early team news, and I just would assume that Watkins is going to play. Would you play Flecken or Fabianski? It kind of depends on your team. If you have Joe Pedro, like me, I would definitely bench Fabianski, but if you don't have any Brighton assets, I would play Fabianski. He looked really good last game week. He has potential for save points, so I would play Fabianski if you don't have any Brighton players. Joe Pedro to Isaac for a hit. Joe Pedro to Alexander Isak for a -4 hit. So if you have the available funds to upgrade Joe Pedro to Isak, I think that it's probably worth a -4. To be honest, Joe Pedro has a couple of good fixtures left, but Isak is definitely a much better fantasy option, especially at the moment when Callum Wilson is injured. I really like Isak. He will play as their number 9 and he will be on penalties. There is a slightly risk, of course, because Brighton still have a couple of decent fixtures, but over the long run, I think that Joe Pedro to Isak probably will work out. So yes. "25 minutes left. I would start Fabianski over Flecken, as mentioned, especially if you don't own Joao Pedro. And yes, I would sell Joao Pedro to bring in Alexander Isak. At some point, I can see Joao Pedro being benched as well. Hopefully, he will start in game week 17, but Hursler has been talking about rotation and that he has a lot of options going forward. So at some point, I think that Joao Pedro will get a rest. I only have 0.3 in the bank, so I would consider bringing in Isaac if I had the funds. I can't bring in Isaac in any other way than taking a -8. I can sell Havertz and Cunha to bring in Wood and Isak, but I'm not willing to commit to a -8, so I will just save the transfer and avoid the hit. Let's have a quick look to see if there are some news about Aston Villa. Okay, so after a quick look, no concrete news on the Everton game. Was some rumors about Everton Chelsea maybe being postponed due to strong winds, but no concrete news, so the game will probably go ahead. No early team news from Aston Villa either. I saw some rumors about Jackson being benched, but nothing confirmed. Probably just rumors as well, but wouldn't be that surprising seeing Jackson get another rest. He's played a lot of minutes recently, so the fact that Maresca has actually been talking about Joe Pedro and Cole Palmer playing as number 9 and 10. Not happened yet, but he said that it was a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he mentioned it, so 20 minutes left. No news about Cunha, no news about the Everton Chelsea game, and no news about Aston Villa. So we just have to assume that Everton Chelsea is going to be played, and Cunha will probably start game week 17. I also think that Watkins probably will start for Aston Villa. So with 18 minutes left, for everyone who has asked about Cunha, if you own him, I would just play him. He'll probably start. We have no concrete news about his ban. I think that he probably should be banned, but will probably happen ahead of game week 18. So keep and play Cunha. He'll either start and play 90 minutes or not play at all. So especially if you have a decent cover on the bench. Just keep him. Decent fixture as well for Wolves. Might be a lot of goals in the Wolves against Leicester game, so Cunha is a keep. If you still haven't decided on the captaincy, my advice would be, especially if you want to play safe, it's Mo Salah. He will have an effective ownership around 160, 170 probably, so he is the safe option. If you have Alexander Isak and want to take a punt, I would be tempted to actually captaining Alexander Isak in game week 17. I have been toying with the idea to bring Alexander Isak in. I got a couple of questions about transferring in Isak. Yes, it's tempting. I think that he will do well, but to get him in, I would have to take a -8. I could sell Havertz and Cunha to bring in Chris Wood and Isak, but I don't want to take a -8, so I'll just play this team in game week 17 and reassess ahead of the game week 18 deadline. "15 minutes left, time to lock in the transfers." I actually read something over at X about the FPL page crashing, so go check that out if you are planning on making transfers ahead of the deadline. Still no early team news from Aston Villa. We would just have to assume that Watkins will start. Don't think we'll get any news. Aston Villa not usually the team that comes with early team news, so should I sell Rodgers or Semenyo this week? If yes, who do you recommend as replacements? think that both of them probably are worth keeping, especially if you have them for some kind of rotation, but it's like Ahmad is probably better value. So if you have like 4 to 5 free transfers, it's probably worth selling one of them to Ahmad. But if you only have 1 or 2 free transfers, I would just save and keep them and play Semenyo this week probably. So if you have a spare transfer, Ahmad is perfectly fine to transfer in. He's also the most transferred in player. 700, it's close to 800,000 transfers in at the moment. So that's for a reason. Really good form. He's one of the most creative players in the United attack at the moment. So Ahmad is decent. So over at the next discussion about Salah's effective ownership, some are saying that he will be close to 180. I think that it sounds a bit high, especially I don't think there will be many triple captains played, especially from active managers after the announcement about, not the announcement, but that we know that Liverpool at some point will have a double game week. I think most will save their triple captain, so I think that probably 160, 170. But no doubt he will be heavily owned in game week 17. And he's also the safest captain option. So if you want to play safe, go Mo Salah. In my opinion, he's also the best option, so it makes sense to captain Mo Salah in game week 17. But if you have Isak, it's probably worth a punt, giving him the captaincy. 8 minutes left. We're getting close. It's time to lock in your transfers, and it's time to make a decision on captaincy. I will have Mo Salah. I transferred him in this game week. I sold Kevin De Bruyne. So Mo Salah will be my captain. Jeff, hello mate. Eight minutes until the deadline. Do you have any questions, dilemmas, or 50-50 decisions? I'm pretty locked in for game week 17. 2 transfers Done. FPL Ilvarmi. Hi mate, thanks for joining. Morning Eric, no questions from me. Did Semenyo to Ahmad this game week. Just wanted to say good luck for the game week. Keep smashing the content, mate. Have a great Christmas. Thanks so much. Best of luck this game week and have a lovely Christmas. Start Enzo or Rogers. With Lavia and Kuku out, I'm afraid he will play deeper. I agree, I would definitely play Rogers. I don't actually fancy Enzo as a fantasy option. I know that he has done well recently. Picked up an assist last game week, but I think that Jackson did most of the job, so kind of a lucky assist. So I would play Rogers in game week 17. Start 2, Kirkis, Mbumo, Joe Pedro, Rogers. I would bench Kirkis and Rogers and play the 2 players that are on penalties, Mbumo and Joao Pedro. So Joao Pedro, decent fixture playing against West Ham. They have not been that good recently. Mbumo, not his best form, but the points are still coming. So I would play Mbumo and Joao Pedro. Six minutes. It's time to lock in those teams. Do yourself a favor, go and check out the FPL page. I read some rumors over at X about the FPL page crashing, so I'm not going to refresh mine because then I will not get it back for the stream, so I will just leave it. But if you're yet to make transfers or not decided on your captain, do yourself a favor and check out the FPL page. The deadline is getting really close. No news about Cunha, so we just have to assume that Cunha will play in game week 17 against Leicester. Not seen any early team news from Aston Villa, and no more news about the Everton game being postponed either. So I think that at this point we would have more information about a game being postponed. So we have to assume that Everton Chelsea will go ahead as planned as well. So Salah, let's have a look at the poll. He is the leader. Pretty clear this game week. Who is your game week 17 captain poll? He is on 85% at the moment. Cole Palmer is second with 12%. Next on the list is Isak with 3%, and Saka, he has no votes. So Mo Salah, clear winner for the game week 17 captaincy. The fixture against Spurs looks kind of tricky on paper, and it's gray in the fixture difficulty rating, but I think that playing Spurs at the moment is a really, really good fixture, so captaining Mo Salah for game week 17 makes sense. Start Masraoui or I would start João Pedro ahead of Masraoui. Masraoui is kind of frustrating because he's got a knock as well, so he started in the cup, but we could potentially see him being subbed before the 60 minutes mark, as we did in game week 14, which was really, really frustrating. Nice team think Thomas Soucek is going to get 11 points. Soucek is probably a bit underrated when it comes to FPL. He tends to get a lot of points and is a real big threat at crosses and set pieces as well. I think their fixture, West Ham against Brighton, actually is a good fixture for the likes of Soucek and Jared Bowen. My favorite from West Ham is Jared Bowen, playing up front for West Ham. It was really disappointing last game week when West Ham got a penalty and Paqueta was still on the pitch. I think that Bowen probably is next in line. Do you play challenge? You mean the FPL challenge that started last season? I did for a couple of game weeks, but I quickly lost interest, to be honest, so not played it this year, to be honest. So 30 seconds left. Do you play the FPL challenge, Benji? What's the weekly challenge this week? I haven't really paid much attention for the last weeks. Deadline is gone. No more time for transfers or changing your captaincy. Hopefully, if you wanted to make late transfers, the FPL page was fine. I read some rumors over at X about the FPL page crashing, so hopefully it worked out if you made any late changes to your team. So Benji, if you're talking about the FPL challenge that started last season, I actually made a couple of videos on it and played for 2 or 3 weeks, but as mentioned, I quickly lost interest, and my main focus is definitely on the regular FPL game. Deadline done, yes. Any City news? Not that I've seen. Nothing before the deadline, nothing from the big accounts when it comes to early team news from Aston Villa or Man City. Man City was like one of those teams that typically had early team news, especially at the end of last season and a couple of times this season as well. But some of the biggest accounts like Blue Moon and FPL Tony, they were wrong a couple of times in a row, so it kind of lost some of its merit. So I've not seen early team news that much this season, especially not lately. So I think that there are a couple of FPL managers that were really interested in seeing, especially the Aston Villa news before the deadline. Rodgers, Watkins, and Ding owners. Okay, thank you. Good luck this game week. Good stream. Thanks for info. Thanks so much for joining in. Thanks for all the questions and best of luck for game week 17. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream and hopefully you'll come back next time. Can't really find anything on Man City early team news. FPL Courtney over at X tweeting, Man City are the early kickoff and no one cares about the leaks for their players. How the mighty have fallen. Might have a point there, Courtney. Not that much interest in Man City at the moment. FPL special, do you play FPL challenge or not? I'm afraid I'm not playing the FPL challenge this season. I did for some game weeks last year, but I have to admit that I quickly lost interest in the FPL challenge. Might pick it up later though, but I have not participated in the FPL challenge this season. I don't even know what the challenge is this week. Would you get Paqueta or Kudus in game week 18? To transfer in, or is it a free hit? I'm not sure if going for West Ham midfielders is the best idea at the moment. There are probably other players around that price point with better potential. In game week 19, West Ham play against Liverpool. They have Man City in game week 20, a solid Fulham in game week 21, Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, Chelsea. So the games for West Ham coming up the next game weeks are not the best, but if you are set on picking one of their players, I would go Kudus. I watched the last West Ham games, and after he returned from his 4-match ban, Kudus has looked really good, to be honest. Been kind of unlucky not getting more FPL points So if I had to pick between Paqueta and Kudus, I would go Kudus. Paqueta is their penalty taker, but I think Kudus is a better option. So thanks for joining the stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and best of luck for game week 17. See you next time.